It started in 2008. We were then evaluating a lot of HR systems, both local and global systems. And then we had ended up in the end with 4 different final candidates. And then we met Troy from Meta4, and we had good discussions, and we felt that you were matching our needs at that time. So it was already in 2008, and we signed the contract in 2009. We started with an initial screening, and I think that was about 9 months before we actually signed the contract with you. And then we had like what we call a pre-selection, where we found out those global actors could have a match with us. We sent out an RFP, and then we found out these are the ones that we could cooperate with. So it took a while, and we thought it was important to really go into depth into the requirements and to find out a supplier that could match us. It was kind of a little bit surprising up here for a company like us to choose a Spanish company. It's not so common because you usually have a Nordic supplier or so on, or either you go for the big like SAP and Oracle. But we found out that Meta4 and PeopleNet are matching our needs better. We like the workflow functionality because we had a need for that. We had an old system, or like a Lotus Notes version of a workflow tool before in some countries, and we wanted something to work in a similar way. And so therefore the workflow functionality was really important. Of course, also since we grow in many countries, we wanted to be a global system. But we also like the self-service because we saw already at that stage it seemed to be a really user-friendly tool. We had a local Lotus Notes-based tool in some of the countries, and in some countries it was just paper-based or Excel sheets. So it was a huge step to go to a common HR system. So it was kind of manual before. We have been working with a steering committee for the project all the way through, and that started already when we did the initial screening. So they were with us all the way through. And we presented the results of our pre-selections and final selections, and then we ended up we had 2 final candidates that they had to choose between. So it was the steering committee, and they made the final decision. We wanted to have a common system so that we, on a central level, could find out data about all the countries. Securitas Direct have been quite decentralized before, but we try to do some kind of central exercises sometimes, and then we need to have the data from all the countries. So there was one need to have a common overview of all the people in all the countries. But of course it was also to improve the HR processes. So because we really had a need to go from being administrators to work with a more strategic level of HR and of course the operational level. But that was the main drive, to really find more common processes and improve them, to work in a more efficient way so that we should spend less time on administration and focus more on the operational and strategic HR. We signed the contract in March 2009, and we launched our PeopleNet version, which is the core and a little bit extras, some additionals we have bought. And that we launched after 14 months. So then PeopleNet was available for HR in all our countries. But then we also spent another 6 months before we launched the self-service tools. And we wanted to take it a little step-by-step wise, and as well we wanted to take it slow to really be sure it's working when we launch to the employees and managers. And actually we have quite a few issues with the self-service, and I think that's due to that we have an extensive acceptance test phase there, and we focused on having it right from the beginning, because that's when you send it out to all your employees, it's so important that they get a good first impression. In the first part of the project, before we launched the PeopleNet for HR, we had a quite extensive acceptance test phase, and that was a tough one. We didn't have enough context during the configuration periods, since we are here in Sweden or in the Nordic countries, and the consultants were in Madrid. So we we had some challenges with the acceptance test phase because we had quite many issues and we had to test extensively. And we were too many testers from our side, so everyone tested everything, and that is nothing I can recommend to anyone else. So plan your acceptance testing in another way, that's my recommendation. So that was the hardest period. And for the next section, when we launched the ESS, we changed our ways of working. So we both had more contacts during the configuration, as well as we had not everyone tested everything, so it was more split between different people, and that was a good approach. Since we were still in the beginning, we launched a self-service for all in February 2011. So they are in the startup phase there, with the managers and employees to use it, but they already say it's a really good tool for them because they can see all the information about their employees. They can manage many processes. They, for example, do the hires and salary changes and cost center changes and work unit changes and so on. They start all of them from self-service. They also report some parts related to performance appraisals there. So for them it's a new way of working. They have access to data that they didn't have before. And also in some of the countries we also implemented the My Work Time, which means that they could report deviations and do holiday requests and so on. And that is a new way of working in many of those countries. So, and that is appreciated by the employees and managers, since that was paper-based in those countries before. So they appreciate it's a lot better flow. And for HR, we struggled a little bit in the beginning because it's a new way of working, new common processes, so everyone had opinions in the beginning. But nowadays it's accepted, and we find out ways how to explore the data today. And now they start to realize how we really can get the value out of the data, that we have it in a common database and so on. So it has improved, but it's not only for HR. It has also improved for IT, for example, because our PeopleNet version is integrated with our Active Directory, which means that PeopleNet both get information from Active Directory but sends as well. And when it sends, it's also, we improve the data for IT. So their processes have also been improved due to this implementation. So it's not only HR this have had impact on. Yes, absolutely. Since we use the workflow engine quite a lot. Since in case of all hires, like all transfers, all changes overall, the system is sending information to other departments and various information to various parties because everyone doesn't have the same need. So therefore the information flow have been really improved because now everyone knows about the hire in time. So they can do their actions. So for example, finance get their information, IT can set up their user accounts and buy a computer and so on. So it's really more efficient flows there. That's a huge difference. We are growing quite a lot, both organically but we also have acquisitions and so on. So for us it's really important that we have a system that we easily can set up in a new country. And we already have a test of that because like 1 month after we launched the self-service here in February, we actually acquired a new company. And we had that company in without no extra costs, and it was like 1 week, and then we had everyone in. And they can start to use self-service as well. So it's really easy and quick to get a win out of that when you have a new company now. Overall, I think the self-service is the most appreciated by all parties. But there we also have the processes there. So as mentioned before, I think it's really valuable that we have the processes by the managers. They know, they sit there and they do the recruitment. So they can start the processes of hire and everything. So the data starts where it actually starts in the reality as well. And then it ends up with HR and it's saved in the system. We appreciate that part a lot. But I think self-service is overall the best section for us. And that's important, because that's the phase out. That's HR out in the computers. So that's important. For us in HR, we can support each other cross borders, which is good. So if someone is ill or vacant, if there is a vacancy in another country, we can support cross borders, which is really good. But it's also that since we streamlined our processes and they are aligned with the IT processes, we also supported them in their standardization. But also from a center perspective, when looking at KPIs and so on, we now can have a consolidated data. Before it was comparing apples and pears. For the moment we have a lot of focus on talent management and employer branding, but also performance management in this company. So we actually had a workshop this week where we looked at the performance management modules and also training and succession planning and so on. So I think it will be, the next focus will lie on performance management, I think, because that's important focus for us.